All right, today we're venturing into one of the most mysterious territories there is, the human mind. I mean, we're talking about a journey to understand things that seem, well, completely incomprehensible. And for a trip like that, you're going to need a map, a very special kind of map.
And it all kicks off with something like this. This is a real quote from a patient to their therapist. Just listen to it. "I have like a black bug here that isn't quite dead. It eats from what is mine, and I need a medicine that kills it completely so I can defecate it." Wow. I mean, it's visceral. It's confusing. It's just deeply unsettling, right? A black bug inside you eating what's yours, and you need to kill it and get it out.
So, the immediate question is, how do you even begin to wrap your head around a statement like that? Is it just random madness? The ramblings of a mind that's broken? Or, and this is the key question, could there be some kind of hidden logic here? A secret meaning buried inside all that bizarre imagery? Well, that's the mystery we're going to try and solve today.
Now, to find that meaning, to navigate this strange internal world, you need a map, and you need a guide. Our guide for this journey is a psychoanalyst named Donald Meltzer. Now, Meltzer was what's known as a post-Kleinian, which basically means he was super focused on our earliest experiences, the stuff that happens before we even have words for it. And this guy didn't just treat patients, no. He was more like a cartographer, a map maker of the mind. He spent his life trying to chart the very structure of our inner reality.
All right, so let's start digging in. The first big idea we need to get from Meltzer, really the foundation for everything else, is this concept of a mental geography.
So Meltzer's idea was that our minds, they're not just abstract, thoughts floating in nothingness. He believed that unconsciously, we actually experience our inner world as a physical space, like a landscape with its own structure. And the very first version of this landscape, the first map we ever get, it's the mother's body. But it's not seen as just a person. It's perceived as a whole universe, a universe with different compartments inside.
And what's really wild is what this inner universe is supposed to contain. It's not empty space. According to Meltzer, our unconscious mind fills it with parts of ourselves, and, this is crucial, with fantasized rivals. He called them other babies. Now, these aren't always real brothers or sisters. They're internal figures, imagined siblings, that we believe are living in these other compartments inside the mother's body. And this inner map, with its hidden rivals, is what ends up shaping some of our deepest anxieties and relationships later on. Okay, so, a map of the mother's body, other babies. How does any of this help us with that black bug we heard about? Well, let's take this idea of mental geography and apply it to the really confusing world of psychosis. This is where you can really see Meltzer's thinking in action. He's saying that when a patient has these paranoid fantasies, say, about their analyst having other lives, that's not just random paranoia. It's actually referring back to that internal map. The analyst in the patient's mind has become the mother. And those other lives? Well, that means the analyst's other patients. They've become the rival babies kept in the other compartments. See how it fits? Suddenly, this changes everything. A delusion isn't just madness or meaningless noise anymore. It's a distorted map. It's the patient's way of trying to show you their inner geography. It's a message, but it's written in a really strange symbolic language that you have to learn to read first.
And this insight leads to Meltzer's pretty counterintuitive technique for therapy. Here's how it works. Step 1. You listen very carefully to the patient's whole delusional system. Step 2. You try to understand the logic of its map. But then comes step 3, and this is the weird part. You actually ignore the map itself. You don't engage with it, you don't argue with it. And why on earth would you do that? Because it's the only way to get to step 4, to connect with the healthy person who's gotten lost inside that territory.
Meltzer's reasoning here is brilliant. He says, if you get too interested in the delusion, if you start playing around on that delusional map, it's a trap. It becomes the only thing you hear. And what's worse, the patient will eventually just think you're crazy too. It confirms their worst fears. So, the goal isn't to get lost in their world, but to find them in it. It's about connection, not, shared madness. Okay, but what if things are even more extreme? What happens when the inner world isn't just a distorted map, but it's being actively shattered? Let's get into what Meltzer called dismantling. So dismantling is this really archaic
primitive defense mechanism Meltzer talked about. And this is way beyond just denial or pushing something down. No, this is an active attack on experience itself. It's a mental process that literally breaks an experience down into its raw sensory parts, like into colors, sounds, tastes. And why? To escape overwhelming emotional pain. It's a way to survive by basically destroying meaning.
Let me give you an example to make this clear. Think about an apple. For most of us, we experience an apple, a whole, meaningful thing. But for someone in a dismantled state, that experience shatters. It becomes a bunch of raw data. So instead of apple, you get redness, a round shape, a sweet taste, a crisp sound. All the connections that make it a single object are just gone. It's like living in a world of adjectives with no nouns to tie them to.
And what's the result of all this dismantling? Well, it's devastating. It leads to a life of profound flatness, a reality without any depth.
Meltzer had a name for this. He called it the two-dimensional world. Think about it. If you can't connect all that sensory data into a meaningful whole, you can't build an inner world. Your own self becomes just a surface, and all you can do is perceive other surfaces. There's no inside to you, and no inside to anything else. It's all just flat.
And life in this two-dimensional world is just bizarrely static. I mean, without an inside, you can't take objects into your mind to think about them. The technical term is introjection. So of course, thinking and memory get all messed up. Nothing ever really changes or develops because there's no depth, no emotional meaning to anything. Time itself can feel like it's just going in circles, trapping you on the surface of things. It's a defense, sure, but a brutal one against the pain of a three-dimensional emotional world.
So okay, we've mapped these really strange and kind of desolate inner landscapes. What's the point? What's the goal of all this exploring?
Well, the goal of analysis isn't just to be a tourist, right? You don't just map these strange lands for fun. The whole point of the map is to help the person actually live there again, to find a path to turn their own mind from a prison back into a home.
And really the core of the work is to transform that raw, terrifying experience into something else, into thoughts and symbols that can actually be understood. It's about building, or maybe rebuilding, the simple capacity to think about your feelings, instead of just being overwhelmed by them. It's about helping someone take that raw, nameless terror, that black bug, and turn it into something that can be held in the mind, named, and finally understood.
Which brings us all the way back to where we started. This is the journey from fragmentation to integration. It's the journey from that flat two-dimensional world back to a rich three-dimensional one. It's how that terrifying, very real black bug can finally be understood for what it is, a symbol for a really painful, persecuting feeling that can, at last, be named, understood, and survived.
So you might be thinking, okay, this is all fascinating, but it's about really extreme cases, right? This has nothing to do with me. But here's the thing. Meltzer would have strongly disagreed with that.
See, he believed that while these are definitely extreme examples, those infantile structures don't just vanish as we grow up. He actually thought that most of us adults are walking around with parts of our personality still stuck in those old geographies, and we have a pretty limited recognition of our own inner reality.
So in the end, Meltzer's work isn't just about mapping someone else's mind. It's really an invitation to look at our own. So let me leave you with this question. If your own mind has a geography, what strange landscapes, what forgotten compartments, and what hidden inhabitants might you find inside? What maps are you living by without even knowing they exist? Definitely something to think about.